Taking into account the high-profile cybersecurity breaches that have been happening in recent months, I regularly get asked, what should we be doing to minimize our exposure in the event of a breach happening? Get your cyber crisis response team in place. Sony's share price took a 12% knock. It was the directors who had to explain it to shareholders and not the IT guy. So there's a diverse team you need to put in place. The team should be made up of directors because they're ultimately responsible for when the breach occurs. They're going to have to explain that to the shareholders. Attorneys, a must. There are guaranteed to have been laws that were broken, contracts that were breached. You need to get PR people on board. They need to know how the breach occurred, what was behind it, so that they can explain this to the media and to the public in the best way. Of course, you're going to need to have the IT guys on board. They're going to have to resolve this breach, find out how it happened, remedy it so it doesn't happen again. So get your crisis response team in place and make sure that you have a proper policy in place that everybody is aware of and everybody knows how they fit in. The second step I recommend is do an information security gap analysis. Get specialists to come in. From the technology side, get information security specialists to test your network. Get lawyers on board. Let them review your policies, let them review your contracts, and let them advise you on what your obligations are in terms of the law. If you know what your obligations are, you can make sure that you are fulfilling them. Implement best practice policies and procedures. Look at your organization and determine what's important for it. Depending on the size of your organization, you might not need the full realm of policies that are required. You might just need the basics. Train your staff on information security. Have regular training, refreshers every year, so that nobody can ever say that your staff at least weren't up to date on what was expected of them. Segment your information, so only allow certain staff to access certain types of information. There's no need for somebody to access the most sensitive information on someone else if it's not necessary. Act decisively when an incident occurs. The first thing I always recommend is, because of the implications, whether they be regulatory prosecution or civil claims, I say call in specialist information security and data protection attorneys. They would be responsible for collating the information from the experts who investigate the breach, from the IT people who would know what's going on in your system. They would be discussing the implications with your PR team and collecting all that information. So in the event of a lawsuit or an investigation by a regulator, you can always claim that that report is privileged and you don't need to hand it over, particularly if the report is damaging and finds that you were negligent. You're protected in that regard. Act quickly and report the breach if you're required to by law. Of course, you would first have consulted with your advisors before reporting it to the authorities to make sure that you are taking the correct steps and know what you are in for once you've reported it. Take those 5 steps and you're sure to reduce your liability in the event of the cyber breach occurring.